what we say in debate, especially when you want to communicate a particular scientific argument, we master the art of what you call bringing premises together. The premises would be the itineraries or the ingredients that you normally bring together in order to support a conclusion. But before you have that conclusion, you need to make a very strong assertion, which is, in this case, we have your argument is that death penalty is very effective. That's about when a country wants to adopt to the death penalty principle or law. Okay, you may argue that it is something that is like very effective in crime control. Now, you must present what we call a reason. That will be your premise at some point that you need to bring together in order to go ahead trying to justify your claim. Now, carrying out the death penalty will deter criminals. It's a very strong reason that you present, but this is not all. You have to give us something we call evidence in order to support the assertion. Now, the evidence has to deal with, okay, it has to be scientific at some point. Please, you have to ensure that you present a scientific evidence, bring us studies that have been carried out. And we need to inform our audience based on principles. Do not manufacture data. It's not applicable in this debate. And if you have a very strong opponent, they can easily get you down. And please present scientific data in order to ensure that our debate goes smoothly. Now, according to 2024 study by Aisha, for instance, the crime rate was high in country X, but when the death penalty was introduced, the crime rate dropped from 3 to 2% between 2023 and 2024. This is a research, a fictional research or fictional study being presented. My intention here is just to make sure that you make sense of what I'm talking about. I don't want anything to be abstract. And this data, please, I'm very, very sorry for highlighting this without giving you a very proper source, just a fictional source. But when it comes to the crime rate high in country X and Y, I wanted to present the data also. It is from Pan-African Debate Manual at some point that I extracted this idea a couple of years ago. I was transferring the data. I could not indicate it here. I'm sorry. Don't hold me accountable for this action. Give me a license to breathe a bit. Yeah, and I'm going to present a chart so that you understand exactly what I'm trying to talk about. Okay, this study is a fictional study. Please do not take it very serious, but to help you understand exactly what I'm trying to put across. If you look at it, it is trying to tell you when the death penalty was used or imposed, was used in one country, the crime rate reduced from 3% to 2%. Yeah, between the 2 years I have just mentioned. So you are still trying to argue that it is effective in maintaining crimes. Yeah, and this data, I don't want you to come up with these statistics. I just want to a bar chart or something like that. The evidence on top can definitely give us an idea of what you want to talk about in order to prove your case. So I just want to visualize this so that the participant will understand and make sense of what I'm talking about. So if you see the logical flow or the coherency in your argument by presenting this plan, first you try by all means to give an assertion that it is effective. Just two, you have to give us a reasoning of whatsoever you think at least can support your idea. But the evidence also matters a lot in whatever you do or say in order to justify a claim. Now, for instance, this is the plan that you need to adopt to so that you guide us on what to do. There is what you call a logical flow of ideas. This is where the transition also has a very strong role to play. You understand? Make the best use of transitions, introducing a new point you use what you call to begin with. For instance, introducing a new point, you say to begin with, We say, firstly, you understand, to start with, okay. Now, the example of death penalty we have, we should start with the death penalty serves as a deterrence of crime. Maybe this is the point you want to introduce, and this is the first point you want to introduce. I want you to have the logical flow. You present your assassin. You at least you try by all means to start with these transitional devices or transitions rather in general. You say start with the death penalty serves as a deterrence. If you want to add a point also, you just mention, okay, in addition to this and the likes, which I'm going to look at, adding new points. In addition, the death penalty delivers justice. The first point here is to start with the death penalty serves as a deterrence. That is point one. Point two, we have, in addition, the death penalty delivers justice to the victims. You understand? In other words, having established you can also say it in another way, having established how the death penalty delivers or deters criminals, I will now explore its role in delivering justice to victims. You see that logical flow. At least you are giving the judges and the audience a template or a blueprint of your arguments. It makes them follow your arguments keenly, and they were able to exactly understand what you want to say at the end of the day. Okay, the end is near. If you have anything from this, you want to say something, I don't want to be an imam in the masjid, just presenting, how would I call it? Give my khutbah, end of the day we pray. I would like to invite some things that you would like me to clarify before we get to time management. These are basic things. I believe everyone may have an idea of how this thing would work. Yeah, in real argument. If you have anything regarding your what you call your war plan, your blueprint, your template, your physical layout of your debate, please, I invite you to maybe to ask a particular question or clarification, please, if there is any. If there is none, we can quickly rush to time management. Okay, time management, how would I call it? The time we have, you as a debater, you should be able to, what we call, to match two things. You have two different time zones within your area. I don't know whether you understand. If I mean different time zones, maybe the time on your speech or the time in your head. Honestly, if you don't mind, you are going to say, all right, it's different from the time on your clock. Why? Because of the amount of pressure mounting at that very juncture. You feel like, okay, you are either being cheated by the timekeeper, or you have not been fair to, or something like that in delivering your speeches. So the time management is very crucial. It is something that you need to practice, how to ensure that, okay, you match the two time zones. Maybe from India, you need to match the time zone with the Gambian context. So we geographers, you know how to calculate to understand exactly the timing. But here, what I want to say is about, okay, you want to deliver your argument based on principle. You want to deliver the argument so that you are not being disappointed by the time you have in your head and the time on your clock. You have to adhere to the 7 minutes. It's very tough. Yeah. Sometimes when you have a lot of things to say, the 7 minutes would be like 3 minutes. But if you do not have a lot of things to say, you'll find that, okay, this 7 minutes is too much. Do you understand? So it depends on your argument. Each debate has a specific time allocation that would be like usually 7 minutes per speech. That's mean if Morocco or India or Russia is coming to debate, each participant, if they occupy in the government bench, opposition bench, whatsoever, each team, if they are also a team, each person, please, has only 7 minutes to deliver his or her speech. That means you have to ensure that you go by these time limits. Debaters must stay within this limit. That is a matter of principle. So if you do not adhere to this, Of course, there would be some penalties to that, and we will discuss how we do it and when or where necessary. The other things about the protected time, we are going to dissect everything and help you how to understand the 7 minutes, how the 7 minutes come about, how they are compacted together to give you a full speech and what's supposed to be done and not. You understand? The first and the last minute of your speech are protected, meaning no one can raise a point of information to interrupt your argument. And we are going to look at point of information. Do not worry. You'll be able to so you'll be able to understand exactly what this point of information means rather in the subsequent slides. How can you come up with certain things in a particular debate setting? I think it needs some clarification from us, especially a notification will be given. A clap from the timekeeper signal the start and the end of your protected time. Please leave this row, and we are going to look at it maybe in the next slide. Okay. Now, let's look at pacing. It's very important in our debate. Yeah, speak fast to cover your thoughts, but slow down for clarity. It is very important. That means like, okay, let me just give an example. A debater rushes through 5 points in 2 minutes, leaving little explanation. Now, that is what we call a bad way of doing things. You want to say, all right, death penalty, criminal from following is very effective, whatsoever. You just come up with these things in order to cover, and it happens a lot in this debate, rather. You have people rush to finish the arguments because of the time I was talking about. The time management was very poor, and you do not explain. You see, if you bring a point, you need to make sure that it is clear. You have to explain why do you believe in this or that, and this requires some explanation that we need to offer. Yeah, you need to have supporting evidence in order to ensure that, okay, you do not just leave everything open. And leaving this debate or rushing to cover and leaving a lot of room for explanation, sometimes your opponents can interject, or what they will do when they are rebuting your points also, they can make them meaningless. They can interpret your point. They can interpret your point anyhow they feel like, because you have not explained. At some point, it is at your own disadvantage. So therefore, you need to ensure that you explain certain things and they are clear to the judges and to your opponents. Now, example of good pacing would be debater expands on 3 solid points, providing reasonings and examples while maintaining a steady speed. You mentioned, you talk about the structure of your debate, what we talk about, the action plan. Always try by always bring your assertion, do not rush. You bring your reasoning, then you continue with your evidence. So this is going to help everyone to understand and follow your debate amicably, without any chaos, problems, in a friendly manner. Okay. Now, when you deliver a speech, in between, there are things that you need to look at. That would be use the rule of 3. Summarize 3 key points in your conclusion for clarity and impact. Sometimes we also, the judges, we are overwhelmed by certain things at some point. Certain points can also escape from our mind. We may not record them. So hence the debate also is a digital format that we are going to adopt. So maybe network problem or any other thing, or something might also has caused certain impacts in the debate, and we are unable to get exactly what you were trying to say. But this point your summary would help us to at least go back and see exactly what was mentioned. If there's anything that was recorded, we were able to compare and contrast and see how that's okay. We follow the line of argument. So it's important we use that. Okay. There is a rule of thumb also that talks about in the first, would be the start of the debate, whereby you say, all right, okay, I'm going to do this. you do it during your argument, and you repeat it. Do you understand? So it's what has been summarized. That is the rule of thumb. All right. You make a very solid promise. You are going to maybe do this. That's the promise. And when you come, when you are reading your structure, okay, Honorable Speaker or members of the government bench, members of the opposition bench, I greet you all. I stand in front of you today as the Prime Minister of this House. You understand? Before I begin my speech, I would like to read my structure or the structure of my debate. First and foremost, I will set a perimeter of this debate. Number two, I will give you 3 solid points why I support this motion. Number 3, I'll engage the House through the use of POI. Number 4, maybe I'll just summarize and conclude my debate. This is what you promise. Very solid promise. Now, when you begin your speech, set your perimeter. You have to set your perimeter. When you come to the debate also to give your points, you have to give your points for sure. After giving your point, at some point you feel like, okay, you need to invite some questions from the other opposing side. You can invite them. Okay, if there is any POI, if they do not ask you at that point, we wish to take POI. After doing that, you have to go back and summarize your debate. So in this summary, that's where you need to bring this certain this issue right now. Give us 3 points. In conclusion, for example, we have shown that the death penalty is effective in crime control, detects criminals, and delivers justice to the victim. I'm very sorry from this point. I have to give you the source so that I am not victim of anything like copying somebody's ideas. So it's a manual. I copied. I find it very difficult to bring the ideas right now because I made some problems with my slides. Okay, for these reasons, we are proud to propose this motion, something like that. So you have given a very solid maybe points to conclude your debate. All right. Now, the other issue is about the iron manning. The iron manning is something that's been abused by a lot of tournaments. And this point, specifically the source would be mentioned at the end of the slide that has to deal with the World Universities Debate Championship manual. That's where I extracted this idea. Yeah, it's been used in Gambia during our national championship. I think one of them was like Banjul Open Debate, Iron Manning. So it occurs when a speaker is unable to participate, but their partner is available and speaks for the team alone. It happened to me when I went to the debate arena. That was, I think, in 2019. I was not with a partner. You understand? At some point, the most logical approach, what the judges would come across or would come to set light on would be like, okay, please, hence you are alone, you cannot debate. That's it. But at some point, they can compromise. They will say, all right, okay, we have somebody also who does not have a partner. You come, at the end of the day, you partner with the individual. I was able to be given a partner and I debated. The other time was like, okay, I think it was Lamin, is it Lamin Sisi or something like that? Is it Ahmad Kanye or something like that? They were going in, going out, and one of them was sick. I cannot remember the person. And the other was able to go ahead with the debate. So that would be during the tournaments. Everything was there. You understand? So at the end of the day, yeah, one was sick for a couple of rounds, could not come, and the other was debating until the friend recovered and they continued the debate. But sometimes you won't even have your partner until the tournament ends. Therefore, you might be left like that and you continue debating. So it's only for contingencies, not like a program thing. You come to debate without like a partner. Sometimes they will not allow you to register. But everything is left at the discretion of the adjudicator to make that decision. But here we allow people to at least do that in a friendly manner to ensure that, okay, our aims and objectives are achieved, to ensure that we foster that unity among Gambian students abroad. And there are things that we always try to be flexible of, ensure that like the main objective is achieved. Yeah. So it's just to minimize disruptions to the arguments and allow the available speaker to participate. Now, from the perspective of the other teams, the judges, like the team functions like a normal team. Even though if you are alone, we call you opponent in government for sure. If you are occupying that position, we call you, okay, this is the opening government, closing government, opening opposition, closing opposition government, whip or opposition whip. That's it. The name does not change. They may receive any rank from first to fourth. Your team, even if you are alone, we treat you as a team. Yeah, okay. This team that is ranked as first, is ranked as second, third, or fourth. It's normal. Yeah, the available speaker receive 2 speaker marks, 1 for each speech. Example, if you are appearing alone, you are the prime minister and the deputy prime minister. If you are occupying the, I'm sorry for that, occupying the opening government, closing government, the same thing. You take the prescribed rules. Other teams are awarded rank as usual, so that does not change. But in the tournament tabulation, that's the top, the Iron Manning team received 0 team points. Why? Because it's seen that the team does not exist. It's just like an abstract team. So, but don't worry, I'm going to clarify everything. Now, this absent speaker receives 0 points because you are not there. You cannot receive points. Maybe if you are from Jajikunda, you can use some charms or some, I don't know, mystical ideas to come and maybe get points. However, that's not the case. The Iron Man speaker receive what they call a single speaker score, which is the higher or the 2 speeches. Now here, let me make it very clear. It would be like you do not come at all. You do not come at all. All right, one person came. The person is going to perform the role of the role of the 2 speakers. For instance, opening government, prime minister, and the deputy prime minister. We are going to be given different marks, but what we normally take would be at the end of the day, we are going to take the highest mark according to the manual, that is the World Universities Universities Debate Championship manual. So that's it. All right, you have delivered 2 speeches. At the end of the day, when we are coming to rank you, or at the end of the tournament, we are going to look at the higher score. Yeah. Points of information, as I mentioned, will be treated properly right away. And this has to deal with the protected time. The first and the last minute of each speech, 0 to 1 minute, and 6 to 7 minutes is protected. No POIs may be offered at this in between these minutes. Now let's make it very clear. Now, when you are given the green light to move on your speech from 0 to 1 minute, nobody is going to ask you a single question. It is established on the premise that nobody is going to destroy or distract you while you are setting your foundation, because it has to deal with like just honorary greetings and the likes. Okay, members of the government bench, but do not make it so much long also to abuse the time being given to you, or just to set the structure of your debate. You have not started. Yeah, we have to allow you to die before you bury you, for sure. First 1 minute, just consider as a minute that you need to set your structure and the likes. Okay, and nobody's going to ask you. Why are we going to ask you? There's nothing being raised. Yeah. Now, POIs may be offered during the intervening 5 minutes, 1 to 6 minutes. From now, that minute, from 1 minute, that is second up to the also 6 minutes, people can ask questions. Yeah, from different angles. You understand? A POI is a formal interjection from the opposing side, lasting up to 15 seconds, either as a comment or a correction to the speaker. Now, the logic is like your POI should last for about 15 seconds. Now, if you stand to ask your opponent a question, we are saying that your question should not be more than 15 seconds. It will be very unfair to the speaker to receive a question that would go beyond that. That means you are eating a greater chunk of the speaker's time. It is not very fair. So it should be just 15 seconds rather. Stand up, just raise your hand. You are given the floor. Ask your question within 15 seconds. If it goes beyond that, the speaker has the right to tell, okay, your time is up or something like that. Yeah. Speaker with the floor decide which POI to accept or reject. So if you are speaking, you intend to ask a question. Sorry, somebody intend to ask a question. So it is at your own discretion to say, okay, I accept or no, I do not accept. Yeah. Each speaker should accept at least one, ideally 2 POIs. More can be accepted, but generally not advised. It is precise according to the manual. Please try by all means to accept at least one. If you dodge POI, there are some consequences. Yeah, but we can go. What do you call it? It can raise what you call some correction. Okay, whether you are fully prepared to take responsibility of what you present. And on the other hand, you believe that taking a POI is very advantageous because it makes your debate, it gives you the chance at some point to clarify what's been said. For instance, you are talking about gender-based violence, you talk about a lot, you are referring to women at some point, you directed the argument to men at some point or vice versa, and somebody asks you a POI on that, something that you have never imagined came out. And sometimes you believe that, okay, the speaker or even your opponent was not even present at the time you were making the point. But simply at some point, some of them, they ask a POI to raise what we call a contradiction. Or sometimes you need to accept the POI in order to clarify certain things. But in this debate, we are dodging or we are running away from introducing a lot of concepts that because we don't have sufficient time to do trainings. We are students from different universities. We have different agendas, different time zones. Also, it's going to complicate issues. That's why we want to introduce the type of POIs. I think Mohammed is going to introduce them, but it's going to be minimal. Yeah, not a lot. So please pick up from Mohammed whenever he talks about the types of POI that could be raised by debate. But please take at least one. That's my role to inform you. Ideally, take 2. Not advised to take more than that. Offering a POI, stand and say point of information or POI in general. On that point, sir or madam, do not reveal the content of the POI before acceptance, avoiding phrases like on the law or not at all. It is very important you do not talk about anything when you want to raise your POI. Just simple as that. But right now we are looking at it from an angle whereby is the media or something like that. Our debate rather is going to be like on Google meetings and the likes. So we are going to discuss how to do this at our own level to see how best we come with a very efficient way so that people can come up with certain things, at least whenever they want to raise POI and the likes. So Mohammed is going to treat things of, no, yeah, it's okay. Basically, just raise your hand, bam. The other thing we are going to discuss at our own level and we see how best we make it feasible. POI should be accepted or rejected. If refused, the offering speaker sits down immediately. Anytime your opponent says, all right, I'm not going to receive your POI, please accept, just go and sit down. Do not make anything that may at least disturb the debate. Okay, POIs cannot be offered after 6 minutes. That's me. 6 minutes of your debate, your speech, nobody can come up with anything. Yeah. Any speaker standing to offer a POI at 6 minutes must sit down. POI is already accepted before. So So a POI offered just before 6 minutes can still be accepted exactly at 6 minutes and delivered. Yeah. After the 6 minutes, it's not possible. Exactly at 6 minutes, you can ask. So it's a very tough moment at some point to decide. Decide. But the timekeeper at some point may intervene if there is anything, or the judges may intervene if there is any misunderstanding to ensure that everything is regulated. Once all speakers are sitting, after 6 minutes, no further POIs may be offered or accepted. After the 6 minutes of your debate, no. So key takeaways, full BP round flows, understand the order of speeches that would be dealt with by Mariam at some point, and I'll make some commitments to at least come maybe later to do anything that I'm supposed to do afterward, and how the debates progresses from start to end. That is know how, so who speak when, and what they call roles of opening versus closing teams. It's going to be very, very important to keep track of everything at some point to ensure that you are not lost. Stick to the allocated time, use protected minutes, and the likes. So internal speeches follow a clear framework, introduce some points, your points as you wish to introduce them. Make sure that you follow a very logical format, that is introduction, arguments, summary, or rules of three. Now the bench strategy, tailor speeches based on what we call position, opening versus closing. Iron manning, one speaker may give both speeches if partner is absent. Team gets 0 points in our tabs. We are going to have our tournament tab right before after the training. Absent speaker 0. Iron manning speaker gets best of 2 scores. And I would like to tell you or remind you again, the iron manning strategy, please, is only used for contingencies, for things that has to do with emergencies and the likes. So because of our nature right now, we need to compromise things. So point of information, accept and true. That's it. Then we have our source, World Universities Debating Champions, debating and judging manual. If there is any error in anything, in any regard, I am fully responsible. Then the end, corrections. And afterwards, I'm going to give you what we call the assessment, maybe just 5 corrections. I'm going to send them later to, you can fill in and we see what, because we need to wrap up right now. We have limited time. People, do you have any question? People.
I think like someone is having a question already. Mr. Sadio, you can come in here.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yes, the Iron Man, as I mentioned earlier, we have a core objective that we need to achieve at the end of the day. So, tentatively, I have no problem with that. honestly, I have no problem with that. It's very flexible. It depends on the judges to accept those things. For sure, I have no problem with that. Yeah, and at our own level, we will decide, but it's going to be fine. It's definitely going to be fine. Yeah, about that, because that's the only option we have to accept at some point. I'm speaking on my own behalf. Yeah, and based on the rule, but there are a lot of things that we can compromise. Yeah, at our own level, so it's okay. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Okay, I think that is the physical part of the debate, and yeah, so it is not a problem. Now, my experience in dealing with this situation, I think, could be referred to back to what we have discussed last year. We realized that a lot of people, example, I think a couple of people, okay, we are not going to be part of the debate. We came up with strategies to ensure that the debate went smoothly. The same thing applies. We can make it just one house. But if you look at example, all right, if we have this house fully set, the other house might not also have the full set. Therefore, what we need to do, we need to strategize and see what is feasible at our own level. Yeah, and we communicate to you people and see exactly what's supposed to be done at the end of the day. But generally, I don't think that is going to be a problem to have what they call the first half of the debate, opening government, opening opposition to debate. Then we establish another house whereby you have opening opposition and closing opposition to debate, and leaving other members at least at some point to debate in another round. What I would advise the participants to do is to ensure that they are familiar with the setup. You understand? Some of them, this is the first time. Let them know how this thing is structured. The obligation that they have today is to ensure that they understand all the rules, yeah, from top to bottom. So if it does not help us in any regard, we can of course adopt to the half bench setup or the half room setup. If it favors us, we can go in for full house. For a full house, no worries. So we will decide that, and it's going to be at the best interest of the two partner institutions. I hope that answers your question. You, um, Khadija,
Well, yes, I think Kadia Sima has a question, right?
Khadija Sima has raised her hand. I don't know. Is it
Yes.
okay?
Hi again. Thank you, Basir. That was very detailed. I have a question. Come on, about the the Iron Manning thing. Well, I think that's pretty clear. Understand that, colleague. But you did mention something like at the end of the day, I mean, every team, I think you take the best from it. Even though two people you represent, you still take the highest mark from it to represent like the team. I think no.
Okay. Are you referring to in the event of Iron Manning or something like that?
Yes.
Whereby yes. Yeah.
Do you mean like even if two people present from a team, at the end of the day, the team still takes the highest mark, just the highest mark from the presenters, instead of just like Nyari Maki, like the highest point?
Yeah, okay. Let me just give you a trial of certain things to maybe give you what you call illustration of what I was trying to put across. If that does not answer your question, still now you have the time to come back and we discuss it. Okay, what I was trying to say, the issue of the iron manning, we are saying that, okay, one speaker wasn't around at all during, so had some problems and could not continue the debate. So you go ahead. At our own level, example, if you want to rank the teams, you understand. If you want to rank them, the Iron Man in person will not, of course, be given score at the absolute points at our own level, that at the top level. But in the event of deciding the results, yes, Iron Man in person would, because he or she must have delivered two speeches. Maybe you want to select also the best speaker. You want to select team position and the like. What we eventually do, we are going to consider only the person who scores the highest mark. Do you understand? Example, the opponent government, the prime minister serves both roles, deputy prime minister and prime minister. So if you want to rank you people, okay, there is a ghost debater in. So to avoid anything, we want to say, all right, we just want to give you an advantage of giving you we're considering what we call the highest mark. Yeah, from that team. That's all. I don't think so whether that answers your question. We just want to make sure that, all right, we give you the highest mark within that circle when we want to decide our results. But the other teams, if you want to say, all right, there's what we call a team role and a speaker role. We are going to evaluate it based on performance. Example, overall, like the opponent government, your marks will be there as an opponent government. This is the speech of the prime minister. This is the speech of the deputy prime minister. Whether you are able to fulfill those roles, of course, there will be mark for you. You understand? There's what we call individual role. You understand? As a prime minister, this is your role, and we are going to see how best you fulfill this role. If you fulfill it, we give you certain things. If you do not fulfill it, the same thing applies. But at the end of the day, Iron Man, at some point, we believe that, okay, it's a ghost debater and nothing happens. To eliminate that kind of confusion, we just select the best speeches from that team, and we give it to the Iron Man in person. That's all. And then we decide the results based on that. Either fourth, second, third, or something like that. We are going to decide it based on that. I don't know whether I'm able to set light on what you wanted me to talk about. If there is none, give me some chance, then you just say it again, or at the end of maybe the session, we can, of course, have a tete-a-tete and see. I explain tete-a-tete online and I explain certain things. Yeah, I'm afraid that I'm chopping somebody's time. That's the issue. But Khadija, please come on board. If that does not serve or represents your question, please indicate it to me. If there's somebody also who is equally not in the same line with me, yeah, I'm afraid that I'm chopping somebody's time. That's the only thing, and we can discuss it at our own level, if possible.
Yeah, sure. I think the way I asked the question was a little bit confusing, but I understand that we are running on time, so I'll definitely reach out after the.
Oh, okay. Please do that. Do that. If the next speaker is not available, I can still invite some questions.
Yeah. And I also like to state with regards to whether having a full house or like a half house. I think that we do have enough people to have like two houses and to have full houses for each of the two houses. And if this is something that you would like to consider, I would really appreciate if you could like put it out for the debaters to choose whether they would want a full house or a house, considering that we have a lot of people.
Yeah, in fact, it is very advantageous if you will have what we call a full house to debate. Honestly, I like it better, but that's the proper standard. And it's advantageous to us to see, so at least to make some assessment. Example, if bench if the opponent government says this, example, the closing government should be an extension of the debate. So it helps the judges to follow certain tracks and to ensure that we give what we call a fairer judgment at the end of the day, because each team by nature has obligations to fulfill. If there is half-half, of course, we're not able to assess you as we want. So this is some of you are appearing for the first time, and it will be very fair for us to come up with certain issues to ensure that you understand the logic behind this debate. Having a full house is so much advantageous, and we will tell you how to extend your debate from teams or something like that. Yes, I want to cook benachin, so I will do this, do that. Yeah, okay. After eating, okay, add there some sorrels and the like. Some will say, okay, no, add there some, is it kosam? Sour milk. So we're able to know who exactly enjoy benachin with milk or benachin with sorrel, and how you spoil everything. So in this debate, it's very important to bring certain dynamics, honestly, out, and people see exactly how debates work in real setting. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Jala. That's all from me.
You're welcome. And those who are new in the system, I always advise you to make follow up, and ensure that, okay, you understand the logic behind this. It's so much advantageous, not for only us as debaters in general, but our societies at large, at least to understand how arguments are presented and how to convince each other in a very peaceful manner. So I'll be very happy to assist some people in any other thing that they wish to do when it's come to judging. Okay, we are Sonko.
Yeah, assalamu alaikum to you all. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Greetings to you all. My question, I want to ask a question regarding the full and half house. Can you please throw some light on that? This is my first time to participate in this type of debate, so I didn't, have the concept of the full and half house. Can you please throw some light on this? Can you please explain about the full and half house?
Okay. Mariama is going to, there should be, what do you call that, logical presentation, but due to our busy schedule and, we are all students and the likes, so we couldn't make a follow-up. So those things would have come first, then I come and somebody else comes and the like. So the logic behind this full or half house or something like that. Okay, in a normal British, I don't know whether I'm fair to say that, but the normal British parliamentary debate house setting would be, okay, there are 4 teams in general, 4 teams. And Mariama is going to dilate more on that. I'm going to give you a picture also how this setup would look like, perhaps in a couple of minutes. We have the opening government, include the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. We have opening opposition, including the opposition leader and the deputy opposition. You go and have what we call a closing government. That's where you have the government member and government whip. You go to the closing opposition, you have opposition member and the opposition whip. Do you understand? If you count all of these teams, we have 4 teams. But if you count the people occupying them, there are about how many of them? 2, 4, 6, 8 debaters in general. So if it is full house, you should have full house, you have 4 teams at most. Now, with 4 teams, 8 debaters. If it is a half house, we have only how many teams? 2 teams. Opposing opposition and opposing government. And there should be 4 speakers. This is what you call a half house. Full 8. Then the half should be 4. Yeah. And speaker rules, Mariama would direct more on that. Mohammed is, of course, here right now, but let me just take a couple of questions from Mustafa and see whether Mohammed could join just right from the end of my presentation.
Okay. Mr. Basiru, thank you very much. So about what we are talking about the full house and the half house. So the thing is, like the message we send to these people, like it's just like they can just send 2 representatives, like what we have actually been doing. because most of these people, like almost 90 to 95% are all new in the debate arena. So what we just do, we just have the two bench, that is the government and the opposition bench. So each bench has two, that is the speaker and the deputy speakers. So we just go with that. So the speaker will just give the everything, then the deputy will do the closing. So we just go for the half bench, because I think that will be way more easier for them, because most of them are new into this. So if we have to go for the full bench, so it may actually cause a whole lot of confusion along the way. And like for Canada and Russia as well, they only have one representative, because it was even very, very hard to have the representative, because they even come and volunteer for them to take part so that the associations can be represented. So about the iron fees and something like the thing you are talking about. So what we often do for them, they just serve both roles. Is if they are at the government bench, they serve as the speaker and the deputy speaker, a prime minister and deputy prime minister. That is the role they serve. So if they are on the opposition bench, they serve at the opposition speaker and the deputy. So that's the only thing they do. So I think if you can at least be flexible with them, yeah. So that's how flexible we often do it with them. So I don't know, but it remains with the adjudicator. Whatever you decide, then we go with that one. But I feel let me just put it forward so that you can at least understand it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mustafa. It's understandable. Honestly, it does not mean how would I call it? Let me put it in a proper way. Even if the country sends two, do you understand? They can still have what they call full house. So you as representatives of a particular country, you are battling with other people. Do you understand? So it's not going to be a problem. We are going to make sure that everything is tailored according to the objectives we have at the end of the day. That would be the two associations and the debaters themselves. We have nice interactions, exchange ideas. Of course, we are going to be very, 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 very compromising when it comes to that angle. The issue of lack of compromise always come during the debates. There's no, but technicalities of this nature, of course, we can always give some issues. Everything what the manual will tell you, the adjudicating team decides, and we are in consultation with your prominent members over there. And of course, we are going to let certain things go. Yeah, I think I should allow Mohammed to come in. If you have any other question regarding my presentation, please send me a message. Yeah, send me a message. Mohammed would come because he's also too busy to, he wants to capitalize on certain things before he has his class started. Yeah. I'm taking the button back to the chair, and I would inform you that Mohammed is around, and he will be ready to go ahead with his presentation.
Okay, thank you very much for that. That was actually a wonderful presentation, and I'm even motivated to even actually join the debate arena now, so that I can win some of these arguments. So so along the line, I'll be leaving because I have another online session to join. So the VP will be taking over as the moderator. But Mr. Mohammed, you can join in and take over. Thank you very much, Mr. Basir, as well.
You're welcome. Happy to hear that. Thank you. Have a nice evening in India.
All right. Greetings, everybody. Please, may I confirm if all of you are able to hear me, please?
Yes, you are audible, Honorable Moro.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Jallo. That was a very, very precise, or I should say detailed presentation. And myself, I was learning along the line as you were going on, because like we say, debaters, it's a continuous learning process. All right, it's developing and it's evolving. So you've actually highlighted a lot of things that, for the most part, in the debates that we do, we've not been considering them. So that was a very detailed one, and I hope and pray that the debaters were able to follow and then are able to equally take some of these things to heart. So again, debaters, I am excited to be part of this, and I would equally consider it to be an honor as a debate enthusiast. This couldn't have come at a better time, considering the type of country that we live in, wherein on a daily basis decisions are made that affect our lives and livelihoods, and those decisions, for the most part, are not considered sufficiently, like the former president and a participant in this debate of young champion debaters would usually say, even though I used to disagree with him very strongly on that, he usually would say it's better to to debate a problem and not solve it than attempt to solve a problem without debating it. Yeah, so I didn't know the truth of that statement then. That was the reason why I was actually very opposed to that statement. But now that I have participated in debate, I have done I have debated almost on a wide range of platforms and with different individuals. Now I understand the importance of debating. So it's not necessarily about argument. It's about wanting to see something from another person's perspective. Because if decisions are made, everybody is affected, but we're not affected to the same degree, all right, by virtue of differences or diverse backgrounds and all of that. So yeah, enough of that. I am not going to take a lot of time, all right, considering a lot of reasons. So my responsibility today is to speak to you guys about 5 things. And I want to make something categorically clear. In this debate, we're not trying to really make any comparisons, even though that is what it is going to boil down to. But the objective is to engage one another because we all want to see a better country. And we cannot see a better country where other people's perspectives are ignored. And the best way we can get everybody's perspective on board is to have encounters like this. All right, that is exactly the reason why we're having this. So the 5 areas that I have been given to discuss with the debaters, and again, this is a training. It's technically to kind of acquaint you with the type of debate that we are going to do and the rules that are concerned or considered in that particular debate. So the 5 areas are speaker responsibilities, because we're going to have speakers. So each participant is going to be a speaker in any contest that the team participates in. Again, we are going to equally be giving you motions. So it's important for you guys to know how many types of motions we have. All right. And again, each of those types of motions as well, what are the judges looking for? What exactly is you as a debater in treating a motion of that nature? The types of rebuttals as well. Again, another fundamental part of your debate is the case building. And then the last but not least, how we are going to assess you guys, what exactly we're going to be looking for in every debate that we adjudicate. So the speaker responsibilities that we have, we realize that when the debate begins, teams are going to be going against one another. And then my colleague, Mariama, would be the one to talk about what the duties of teams are. So my responsibility is to talk about what the duties or responsibilities of speakers are, the different speakers. So you realize that once we have the different teams, we are going to have a participant who is designated as the prime minister. We are going to have another person who is designated as the deputy prime minister. We are likely going to have, I'm saying likely because I'm not sure, because we're going to do this as adjudicators. We are going to sit and assess and consider a few factors to see whether or not it will be ideal to have a fully constituted house. Where this is not possible, then we know how to go about it. But in the event that this is possible, we should be able to have a government member and then a government whip. Then we would have, on the other side, we would have the opposition leader, we would have the deputy opposition leader, we would have the opposition member, and then the last person on that other side would be the opposition whip. So what are the responsibilities of these individuals? It is not a very difficult task, all right, placed on any of these individuals. If these roles are understood and they're performed exactly as they're expected by the judges, that is what wins your debate. You realize that sometimes you can debate against a person who is even more articulate than you are, but you end up winning the debate because it's important for individuals to know that debate is not your level of articulation. Yes, those count, but it's not what constitutes all the mark that you get to be given. So understanding these responsibilities are very important. So for the prime minister, the responsibility of a prime minister is to understand that the proposition side, their case, I can say, entirely depends on the Prime Minister. All right, I'm saying this. I'm sorry again. I was going to apologize for not being able to share any slide. I am not as nice.
Sorry, Mohammed, just a
Yes.
second. Let me just share the screen with them, please. The rules, let me just share them so that
Okay. I am not as organized as the previous speaker, and I hope to be excused. I hope to be excused.
It's okay. Let me just say it's our teamwork. Don't worry. Let me just say certain things.
All right. So I'm not going to equally be going strictly by what the slides say. That is because we are seeing this as a form of a hybrid debate, if you would like. All right, because we realize that different environments refer to some of these things differently. All right, but at the end of the day, they mean exactly the same things. All right. So while Mr. Gallo is working on sharing the slides, that is basically just to help you follow what I'll be driving at as the discussion unfolds. So the Prime Minister, the case depends on this individual. The reason I say that is because it is the Prime Minister's responsibility. That is, if any of you happens to be the Prime Minister, you should know that it is your responsibility, all right, to build a very strong case for your side. How you do that is, it is your responsibility to give very solid definitions of the motion. This is very important, and so many debaters try to ignore this. All right, it's very important. It's very important to put this at the back of your minds and not forget it. You need to define the motion. The reason you're doing it is not because you want to explain it to the judges. No, but we know that definitions are very important because they give us an idea of what you intend to talk about. And definitions can either be for or against you. All right. Seasoned debaters would agree with me that we can all give different definitions of exactly the same thing. All right. So you try by all means as the Prime Minister to get definitions that are solid, that are concrete, and that are persuasive, and equally they support your side of the argument. All right. This The reason why we are doing that is because you are not having debate, you are having an exchange of ideas. So it's very important that anything that you say, you back it with a credible source. The reason why this is important is because if you make an argument and you don't back it with any credible source, you realize that your argument can be reduced to an opinion. And we don't consider opinions because we know opinions are very cheap and anybody from anywhere can make them. So that is part of the reasons why, as adjudicators, we don't place premium or even value on opinions. So the Prime Minister, please be aware, when you give this definition, this solid definition that is persuasive, concrete, and supports your argument, make sure this definition is backed by credible sources. And what I mean by credible sources is, for example, let me crack a joke and maybe try to get on the nerves of the representatives of India, since those are the people that I probably would likely know. For example, you give a definition and now you want to source it from, let's say, Delhi newspaper or something. I'm not saying that is not credible, but internationally, you realize that that would not be something that some of us are conversant with. All right. So anytime you give a definition, given this definition that is credible in a sense that it's a definition that one can say it is sourced from a credible source that most of us at some point would be able to relate to because it is recognized by its credibility. That's the first thing that the Prime Minister has to do, the definition of the key terms of the motion. And please, I have to clarify this. When they say definitions of the key terms of the motion, most debaters also make this mistake. You're not necessarily supposed to define every word in the motion. For example, is. Why would you define that word? There's no need to define words like this, all right? So your responsibility is to make sure any keyword that is in the motion, you define it so that you're basically trying to provide context because the motion is just a bunch of words. So once you define it, you're providing context for the debaters, all right? Okay, so so the other thing for the other thing after the definition of the motion by the Prime Minister, the second thing that the Prime Minister has to do is to ensure that there is what we call a pre-rebuttal, right? Because, for example, you're not going to rebut any points that have been made because nobody has spoken before you. You are the first person to speak. So because of that, we expect as judges that you might have at least had an idea of what the speaker after you is going to come up with. All right. So you try to kind of do what we call, you try to cut the ground beneath their feet even before they get started. So now you're putting them in a very funny situation. You've cornered them. Pre-rebuttal means, for example, if you anticipate the likely points that the opposition leader, that is your opponent, is going to come up with, you try to rebut them by making those points look very, like we would say as debaters, baseless, all right, and tasteless, other people would say, and unconvincing, all right, to us. You realize that once you do that, even if such a person comes up with those points, it would not, or they would not carry the same amount of weight that they would have necessarily carried if you had not pre-rebutted them, if that makes sense. All right. So the next thing that we expect from the Prime Minister is to ensure that the debate has a scope. And so many people don't do this. It's very important to do this because if you don't set a parameter for your debate, now you're creating a challenge even for your team and you're giving the other team an upper hand. All right, because now you're making it look like, okay, so the debate is so broad that any of you can argue anything. Don't do that. Anytime you're given a motion, try to make sure your debate, you set a scope for your debate, you set a parameter for your debate. This is, for example, when we say this is exactly what this debate is about. For example, if you're talking about the maybe illegalization or legalization of a particular maybe prohibited drug or something, you can say it's going to take effect. For example, it's going to take effect, but again, even if it is legalized, it's going to be just for recreational purposes or for medicinal purposes. You know, now when you say for medicinal purposes, somebody would not tell you, okay, but now children are going to smoke, and when they smoke, they're going to lose their minds and all that. You're going to tell them no. When weed is legalized or farming of weed is legalized, anything that is gotten out of that is going to be for medicinal, strictly for medicinal purposes. Now you have set a scope in a way that all arguments that have to do with psychosis that is caused by smoking weed would not be relevant, if that makes sense. So parameters are very important. If you don't set them, you're shooting yourself in the foot. The other thing would be establishing cogent points. The reason why I'm saying that is because you can establish points, but they equally have to be cogent. They have to be relevant to the motion that is given to you. All right. I'm trying to rush. The other thing would be to make sure you have a very good summary of your debate. We cannot overemphasize the importance of this. The reason why this is important is because we are all human. We, the adjudicators, are human. All right. while you were speaking, we're listening to you, of course, but our attention spans are not the same. You realize that sometimes some of us are unable to listen for a very long or an extended period of time, especially some of these Jola people who are used to eating. Usually, when they haven't eaten, you realize that it's very difficult for you to have them listen to an argument for an extended period of time. So the reason why the summary is important is because if you speak about something and I hear it, but along the line I get to kind of forget that you've spoken about it. If you provide the summary, you are restating, and that kind of refreshes me. All right. Oh, yeah, he has spoken about that. And now I remember exactly everything you've said about it. But without the summary, there is no other way I am going to be able to remember what points you have made. And you are not scored as you speak. You are scored after you have spoken. All right. Now that is when your argument is weighed, all right, in totality, and then you are given the score that you deserve. So please, the Prime Minister, make sure that your debate is summarized. All right. So for the opposition leader, so I'm going to speak about the roles of the opposition leader, the deputy opposition leader, and the deputy prime minister. So the rest of the other roles would be taken over by Mariama. That is the government member, the government whip, the opposition member, and then the opposition whip. That is because we are constrained by time, and Mariama will incorporate that into some of the things she'll be talking about as well. And I know that is going to make the work very difficult for her, considering that she already has a lot on her plate. But again, that's what they're supposed to be doing for us. That is these Yetejalo people. Yeah, but moving on, the opposition leader, your responsibility is to make sure that your side is not disadvantaged. All right, disadvantaged in a sense that if the prime minister gives definitions that you know are incorrect, all right, it is your responsibility to make sure you kind of let the House know that the Prime Minister lied in providing the definitions he provided. All right, it's very important. It's very important. All right, to ensure that if the definitions are not true, it's your responsibility as the opposition leader to make sure you redefine the motion. Because what happens is, sometimes individuals think this is unreasonable, but as far as debate is concerned, if the prime minister gives a definition and that definition stands unchallenged, so we go by that definition. Our responsibility is not to tell you what to do. Our responsibility is to work with what we are given. All right. So if the prime minister says, this is the definition of the key terms, all right, and then that definition remains throughout the debate unchallenged, then we take that definition as if it is the true definition. All right. So it is the responsibility of the opposition leader to make sure anytime a definition is given of a key term that is not correct as far as his understanding of the key term is concerned, it is his responsibility to ensure that such a definition is debunked and the proper definition is provided. Failure to do this, you have yourself to blame, opposition leader. So that is number one. Number two, the parameter or the scope that is set by the prime minister. It is up to you to challenge it. Okay. If, for example, the prime minister sets a parameter that you believe is unreasonable and does not reflect the true intention of the motion, it is your responsibility to broaden it. You have that right to broaden the scope of the debate and then ensure that the debate is not restricted to something that is even going to defeat the purpose for which we brought the motion. We're not going to be saying these things as adjudicators, but we know these things are your responsibilities. If you do them, we applaud you. If you don't do them, you get penalized. But your responsibility as well is to broaden the scope where the scope is restricted in a way that is unreasonable. The other thing is to ensure that you debunk every single point made by the prime minister. The reason why I'm saying this is because some people will tell you, but you don't have to disagree with everything. No, yes, that's true to some extent. You don't have to disagree with everything. But again, any point that is made by the previous speaker, if it is unchallenged, that point stands throughout the debate. So your responsibility is to challenge every point. Sometimes, like I will be discussing in the types of rebuttals, you don't necessarily have to have a direct attack on a point by kind of having a blanket ruling as to the invalidity of that point. But again, your responsibility is to make sure every single point made by the previous speaker is challenged. All right. Again, the opposition leader would have to provide his own cogent points. All right, at most 3 for this particular debate that we're going to be having. All right. And the amount of time that each speaker is going to be given also will be discussed by Mariama as well. So, and I think time management has been effectively talked about by Mr. Jallo. And that is the part that really interested me, because I realized that for the most part, people debate very well, but when it comes to time management, that's a problem. And that's always been my problem as well, as a debater. I've been trying my level best for the longest time. It's always been my problem. It's not an easy thing, but again, with much practice, you'd be able to get over it. After the provision of the points by the opposition leader, now the opposition leader would have to equally give us, maybe it is his responsibility. So it's like a discretionary responsibility, because there are things that are mandatory and there are things that are equally seen to be discretionary. So this is discretionary. He can either choose to give the alternative, all right, of the motion, or he can decide by nature of his inability or her inability to ensure that he or she debates within the time frame given, to assign it to someone. But whoever he or she assigns it to, that individual would be the one to give us the alternative. And where this alternative is not given, the team is going to be punished. So what is an alternative? For example, if we say we are going to legalize the farming of marijuana in the Gambia, then the alternative of the opposition would be, if we don't legalize it, what do we do instead? That's very important. So you're basically saying, no, we disagree with this, but here is what can be done. All right. So that can be a discretionary discretion of the opposition leader. He can give it, or he can assign it to any of the speakers on his side. For the deputy prime minister, his responsibility is to first and foremost set the house right. That is, in the event that, because when the opposition leader comes, he has already done the damage. All right. He has attacked all the points given by the prime minister. He has shown the house that the prime minister is a liar by providing definitions that are inaccurate, and even not giving sources, not because he forgot, but because there are no sources to give, because the prime minister just gave us maybe an opinion. So the house is already in this array, all right, in a sense that now the judges are toying between what the prime minister has said and the case that has been established by the opposition leader. So now the deputy prime minister has a bigger responsibility. It's his responsibility to make sure that his case, or the case of his side, is given the needed shot in the arm, so to speak, okay? Because now, one person on your side who has built your case has been attacked very strongly. And now it is your responsibility to make sure you give weight, necessary weight, to the arguments provided by your side. So how you do this is, first, you can decide whether to debunk first or to give weight, that is to support. But like Mr. Jallo said in his presentation, if you give a structure, if you fail to follow the structure that you've promised us, we are going to hold you accountable. Right? We're going to do that. So it's very important that any structure that any of you provides during the debate, ensure that you're in line with that structure. All right. So if you decide to do the debunking first, then give weight to the points given by the prime minister. Fine. Make sure it is done exactly as you promised you were going to do. So, for example, in making sure that you give your side a better standing, is to ensure that the points that were provided by the opposition leader, all of them, every single one of them is debunked. Challenge all of them. It's up to you what type of rebuttal you're going to use, and I'll be discussing the types of rebuttal. So it's up to you to see which of these types will be ideal for any of these things. Again, from there, you have to give weight. That is, you've already listened to the case that has been established by the Prime Minister. You've heard the points that he has established. So it's your responsibility to make sure that those points are given weight. Support them. And supporting them does not necessarily mean you have to repeat them. Repetition does not count. okay, what you have to do is to make sure you show us a side of those points, like give us a different perspective. If the Prime Minister said legalization of farming of marijuana is going to bring about economic prosperity, now give us something about economic prosperity. For example, if people are prosperous economically, that would mean better, maybe better living conditions and as well. What are people able to do if there is enough money? Give us a different perspective. It's going to be exactly the same point, but you're equally giving us even more reasons to believe the Prime Minister. All right, if that makes sense. So the other thing, after you have given strength, like we would say as debaters, strengthening the case of of the previous speaker. So the other responsibility that you have is to ensure that you equally give other points. So these points are not going to be exactly the points given by the Prime Minister, but they're going to be points in favor of your case as the government bench, as the proposition side. These points that you're going to be given are going to be in support of your side. All right. So at most, they can be 3 points, 2 points, depending on what you're able to give. All right. Based on your pace and your ability to be able to limit yourself within the time given. Then the opposite, then you equally follow the same thing, give a summary of your debate. It's very important. All of the debaters must give a summary. It's very important. Then you can have a conclusion. Then the other side, the opposition, the deputy opposition leader, again, the responsibility is technically similar in a way, but slightly different with the deputy prime minister. Now again, the House is is a little bit tilted in favor of the government side by virtue of the fact that the deputy prime minister has now kind of given more weight to the proposition side. So the balance is tilted a little bit. All right, so we don't have a balanced scale. So now it's your responsibility to make sure that the scale now is tilted in your favor. Okay, how you do that is to make sure you attack every single point made by both speakers. Sometimes people think, okay, the deputy opposition leader's responsibility is to only debunk the points of the deputy prime minister. That can be acceptable to some extent, but if you want to have a very good debate, if you want your team to be seen as the team worthy of the glory, it's very important that you don't leave some of those points of the prime minister unchallenged, even though they've been challenged by the opposition leader, but you can still challenge them from a different perspective. Give us something that the opposition leader did not say, but again, it's still in attack of the points made by the prime minister, if that makes sense. Attack every single point made by the deputy prime minister. Give weight to the case of your side, ensure that the opposition leader, the points that he has made are given weight, are supported, all right, and supporting them also would mean you ensuring that you give them weight, and giving them weight, like I said, would be you looking at those points from different perspectives, different from the perspectives from which the opposition leader looked at them, but it will still be in support and in defense of those points, trying to convince us more as adjudicators as to why we should believe the opposition leader and disregard the other side. Okay, so it's an adversarial system. There is no need to be too nice. Okay, so yes, so you can be as adversarial as possible, but again, still maintain that level of respect. I think it's still possible. You can balance the two. I think one of my favorite debaters of all time is able to do that. I will not name names for now, but again, the person about which I'm speaking knows exactly who himself. So moving on, like I said, the other 4 speakers, their roles would be deliberated on by Mariama. So now I move on quickly to the types of motions. So we have different types of motions, but what is a motion? There's no need for a definition of a motion. All right, we all know what motions are, but just to provide context, these are the topics that we're going to be giving you to discuss. So topics for discussion. All right. These are the topics that the debates are going to be based on. So we have wide range of types of motions, but again, we are going to, for the purpose of this debate, we're only going to be giving you motions that fall within one of these three types of motions I'm going to be giving you. All right. So the types of motions we're going to be giving you would either be a policy motion, a value motion, and a comparative motion. You realize that different places call these types of motions differently, but they're all talking about the same thing. So because if you go to certain places, instead of value motions, they will call them uh, analysis motion. All right. There's also a type of motion called fact motion or fact-based motion, but we're not going to be giving you motions like that. Most of you have debated those things in junior school. So where we are right now, we're not doing that. Okay, we're not saying leaves are green, leaves of trees are green. We're not doing that. Okay. So the types of motions we're going to be giving will constitute these three types: policy motions, value motions, or comparative motions. So, for example, when it comes to policy motions, all right, you realize that your responsibility as debaters is to ensure that the motion that you're going to be given is going to relate directly. The focus is going to be on a problem, the solution, and the impact of the solution. So, how do either of these two sides get to win a debate that is based on a policy motion? The government side, its responsibility in debating a motion like this is to show the policy solves a real problem. All right? And the opposition has to show that the policy fails, it causes harm, or at best, it is unnecessary. So I'll provide context. So a policy motion is about something that you feel should be done in addressing a particular problem that is in place. So now, because I have said should, okay, so now you realize that as the government side or as the bench that is proposing a motion like this, it becomes incumbent upon you to show us that there is indeed a problem that this motion seeks to address. That's number one. Number two, you should equally let us know why this particular motion and what it seeks to achieve is the most appropriate remedy to that problem. And again, it becomes your responsibility to let us know after this motion is implemented, what is going to be the impact of it. And last but not least, is to make sure that you let us know, all right, how you as government, if this motion is accepted in this house, how you're going to go about implementing it. It's very important. All right. We don't only want to come up with policies, but equally we want to be very clear as to how these policies are going to be implemented. Because no matter how beautiful a policy looks like, if it is not implementable, what's the point? So if a government bench argues a policy motion and they fail to let us know how they intend to implement such a motion, we take that it is unrealistic. All right. So we're not going to say, okay, so we as adjudicators, let us think around it. We're working with what you give us. If you fail to give us the how, we take it that your policy is unrealistic. Be it as it may, no matter how beautiful it is, as long as you don't give us the how, we feel that your policy is unrealistic, and that affects your critical thinking because you're going to be scored on critical thinking as well. All right. So the value policy or the value-based policy is the type of policy where we would say this house believes that, or this house supports. For example, we might say this house believes that maternity leave, maternity leave is of more urgency, or maybe if it's associated with maternity leave is of more urgency compared to paternity leave, for example. All right, so that is basically us, the value that we are trying to place on something, all right, the value that we are trying to place on something as a society. what are the things that we value? For example, we might say this house believes that honesty, all right, should be the benchmark for public service. We can say that. So what are the values that we hold as a community? All right. So if you're debating things like this as a house, your responsibility is to ensure that you give us principles as a community or as a society. What are the notorious principles, like the famous principles that you believe we all kind of have some sense of belonging to? What are the moral reasonings behind these things? Because sometimes also you realize that what might appear moral to you might not appear moral to me. For example, if we say this house believes that um, prostitution should be illegalized, for example, I am not in support of that debate or that motion because I believe that this is equally a very legit way of earning an income for certain set of people in the community. But that could be a debate for another day. Nobody has to attack me for now. I'm just giving a basic, just an example of a particular assumption. All right. Again, you have to equally give the social values. All right. What are the values that we hold dear as a society? That is the value policy. All right. And then the third policy would be comparative motions. All right. Comparative motions, where we say one thing is better than another, or one thing does more harm than good. All right. So you realize that this is also a motion, the type of motion that is very common, where even if we intend to do something, now we try to do what we call cost benefit analysis. All right. For commercial students, we try to see whether the cost would outweigh the benefits or the benefit would outweigh the cost. So it's like we're trying to choose one thing over another. All right. And we have a lot of responsibilities as a country. So most of your motions, I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but there's a likelihood that most of your motions are going to be drawn on this type of motions because as we speak right now, we are in some sort of a dilemma. We don't really know which road to take. So again, types of rebuttals. All right. Equally, I will do this in a very I would be very brief with this. So the types of rebuttals, but what is a rebuttal, for example? All right. A rebuttal is, you can see it as an attack on a claim that has been made. All right. A claim has been made, and if that claim remains unchallenged, like I said, it would stand throughout the debate. It's very important that any claim that is made is attacked. You don't just let it stay there. You have to attack it. Attack it in a sense that you try to show us either it's untrue or the logical reasoning that underpins the claim is inaccurate, or there is a lack of evidence or facts, all right, that support such a claim. So it's technically to show the judges that the person who is making the claim is in fact lying, all right. But lying in what sense? That depends on how you're able to convince us that the individual whose claim you are debunking has lied, all right. So the types of rebuttals we have, but again, it's very important to understand that rebuttal is not a mere disagreement. It's a destruction. All right. I say that word very deliberately. It's a destruction because sometimes somebody can say, the prime minister said this. I disagree with what the prime minister said. Some people do that. Okay. I witnessed debates where individuals would say, the prime minister said this. I disagree with the prime minister. Okay. Then what? That's not you challenging what the prime minister has said. That's you telling us how you feel about it. All right. But again, we want to hear why you think the prime minister should not be believed. Why you think the prime minister, the claim that he or she has made should not be allowed in a house like this. That is what we want to hear. Show us why such a claim is not substantive. All right. So the types of rebuttals we have would be direct rebuttal, all right, logical rebuttal, and then evidence-based rebuttal or impact rebuttal, all right? So the direct rebuttal, like I said, would be you attacking what is exactly said. For example, if the prime minister argues that plastic bags help, or sorry, so to ban plastics help the environment. For example, you can say, even though this is true, that plastic is bad for the environment, and if plastics are banned, all right, the environment is going to flourish. Now you can attack that point by saying, but the Prime Minister has ignored enforcement failure. So what happens if you ban something and there's no enforcement? And last night I was talking to somebody about it. I told the person that we have an anti-littering law in this country, and anywhere you go, the place is so filthy. Everywhere you turn to, you see papers, you see whatever. It's just so filthy, all right, just so messy. So that is as good as not even having a law in the first place, because a law that is unable to achieve the purpose for which it was created is no law, all right. So the direct attack would be you making sure that you attack exactly what is being said and let us know that this is not true. It cannot even make any sense. All right, it's not sensible. So the logical rebuttal is not to attack what is being said, but is to attack instead the reasoning behind what is being said, if that makes sense. All right. For example, if I say something, on what reasoning do I base it on? So let us stick with this example just so we don't cause confusion. If the argument assumes that people will comply, now, where is the reason that they will? All right. So if you say, yes, if plastic is banned, people will comply because we are going to sensitize them. Okay, fine, but give me reasons. Give me reasons as to why you think this is going to happen, because as far as I'm concerned, there is no concrete reason that individuals, if a law or policy is implemented, they would comply with it, because we've seen what is happening. The anti-littering law is here, and people are sometimes they even get into your compound and urine it in there. So we've seen all of that. So you have evidence-based rebuttal. So what this means is to attack factual examples. Other debaters argue that this is no rebuttal, but hey, debaters, this is good rebuttal. All right, because individuals sometimes they build their case more by providing facts and examples. Like they would quote statistics by Gambia participates, GBOS, standard newspaper, sometimes even entities that don't exist. All right, just to make sure they solidify or concretize the points that they're making. So it is your responsibility to make sure the evidence given, you challenge the evidence. All right, not to challenge their right to give the evidence, but to challenge the accuracy of the evidence that they have given. All right, so that is also a type of a rebuttal. You're not disagreeing with the claim they are making, but now you are challenging the evidence that they're giving in support of that claim. So you realize that if the evidence is destroyed, now the claim becomes skeletal. All right, will not have the amount of weight it could have had if the evidence had remained unchallenged. All right, so it's very important that you have this type of rebuttal. All right, so moving on, like I said, I'm rushing. I would have wanted to, get into these things very deeply, but again, time is always the enemy. The other thing would be the case building. All right, this we would not. I'll try to be as brief as possible. The case building concerns, because once the motion is said with you guys, you're going to be given some time to prepare, to come up with a very good case based on the motion given to you. All right. So I am not very conversant with the type of with the stakeholders that you have to consider. But again, here is the thing: once you're given the motion, your responsibility is to seek what the motion seeks to achieve. Try to get into the minds of the adjudicators. Why did they come up with a motion like this? What is the relevance of such a motion? What does such a motion seek to achieve? All right. Ensure that your content is enriched. It's very important, because you're going to be marked out of content as well. It's very important. So when you're building your case, you try to consider certain stakeholders of the motion that you've been given. All right. For example, when we talk about legalization of marijuana for medicinal purposes. All right. So healthcare. All right. Look at youth or young people. because they are mostly the ones who are affected by the negative effects of weed. Think about drug law enforcement officers who are going to technically, even though that is something I'll be happy about, who are going to be put out of work simply because now the major drug that they are trying to kind of police against has been now made legal, for example. So the scope of their work is now going to be limited and all of that. But just try to make sure you consider every stakeholder that you feel is going to be affected by the implementation or otherwise of the motion, if that makes sense. All right. Build a very good case. Make sure every point that you give, you reference it, and make sure that every point that you give has a very good and solid backing. And what that means is get a very good evidence, solid evidence, sourced from a very credible source. All right, if that makes sense. So last but not least is the adjudication is what we are going to be thinking. Sorry, what we are going to be looking at. So I think the adjudication seat or score seat that we are going to be using would be shared with all of you, the debaters, maybe once we finalize it. But just to give you a gist of what we're going to be looking at, all right, as far as your debate is concerned. So one thing that we're going to be looking at would be the content of your debate, all right? Please, I want to be sure that you all are getting me. I have spoken for a very long time, so I want to be sure that I am not just monologuing right now. Can everybody hear me? Thank you. So content, all right, we're going to be looking at that as the education team. So the content is the core of your debate because it's going to evaluate the strength, relevance, and depth of the arguments that you're going to be presenting. It's very important. This one, it cannot be overemphasized, all right? Even if you speak very well, that's what they say. Some of us, when we debate, we're very eloquent. We speak and then you fall in love with how those people, they speak because they're very, eloquent and all of that. But again, if your debate is stripped of content, meaning all the points that you have made, you've spoken about them very well, but again, they're not relevant to the motion. All right, we're talking about legalization of euthanasia, for example, and you're giving us something that has to do with something completely different from what the topic at hand. So it's very important that you try to be very careful with the points you're going to be given, because sometimes certain people, because a point sounds good, it's a good sound bite, you think, why not I bring it? If it is not relevant, it's not necessary. If there's anything that you have to go home with that. If it is not relevant, it is not necessary. All right. So on the content, we're going to be looking at three things as well. So argument, strength, and relevance. I have already spoken about that. So critical thinking and analysis, I implore on all of you. This is what most of the debates I've participated in are stripped of. Most of the debates in the Gambia, I can say, all right, are stripped of this element. This is very important. So debate should not only be done for its own sake. Debate should equally empower people to be able to think critically. All right, so we evaluate a debater's ability to think critically and analyze the motion from different perspectives. All right, so they would say, a strong debater will not only present their arguments, but will also assess the broader implications of the motion, highlighting different angles and potential consequences. All right, I know a very good debater who usually, when he is debating, he does not necessarily disagree entirely with the opposition. Sometimes he will even think that he's making a fool of himself by agreeing with the opposition to some extent. And the opposition now, this will disarm them in a way. And now he would challenge their logical reasoning. So it's a mind game, all right? It's very important that you try to think very critically. And the third thing that we look at on the content as well is going to be research and evidence. Are your points well? Because again, research is very important. If I come into a house and I just keep saying something like, this is going to do this, this is going to do that, this is going to prevent this, but I'm not trying to come up with anything that shows that this is what I have said is possible because it has been proven. All right. Here is the evidence that shows that if this is done, it's going to prevent this. So it's very important that your debate or your arguments are very rich in content. And the best way to do it is to make sure your arguments are given strength and relevance. Critical thinking is equally engaged, and their research and evidence. So the second thing we're going to be looking at would be structure. And then Mr. Jallo has already spoken about that, all right, in detail. So that one is very important. You have to be clear, you have to be coherent, you have to equally understand your roles as speakers, all right? And again, he has said something very important. If you promise us a structure, stick to it. All right. If you deviate from it, we're going to penalize you. The other thing we're going to be looking at would be rebuttals. All right. So in your rebuttals as well, these are the things that we're going to be looking at. You're listening and engaging with the opposition argument. For example, if you're reporting a person, but now you're misquoting them, the impression that gives us is now you're reporting for its own sake. You're reporting something that you didn't even hear. Then what are you reporting? You cannot report something you haven't heard. All right. So it's very important that you listen and engage with the arguments that you're going to be required to rebut. We're going to be looking at that because we're listening as well. So if you say something that a person has said, or purportedly a person has said, if they didn't say it, we would know they didn't say it. So as a result, that rebuttal at best would not count. All right. So definitions and parameters for the Prime Minister, because the Prime Minister is not rebutting anybody. So to be fair, the Prime Minister's definition and the parameters set by the Prime Minister is what we're going to be looking at on the rebuttals. And points of information as well. Mr. Jallo touched on these things. Due to time, we might not be able to dilate more on this. But points of information is basically while you're doing your debate, you probably might make an assertion, all right, that is not accurate. One of the debaters or any of the debaters is given that right to ask for a point of information, all right? And once that is granted, and again, this is in the discretion of the debater, it is your time. So if the person asks or a debater asks for POI, it is in your discretion to either accept or reject. But like Mr. Jallo said, if you accept and you're able to answer the question that is posed to you, or you're able to kind of provide clarity on the doubt that is cast on you by the debater, that earns you, or you'll be rewarded for that. All right. But again, if you feel that what the person is seeking to do is to kind of waste your time, or even kind of get you out of touch with what you're trying to, or the points you're trying to make, or even maybe kind of make your argument look a little bit fragmented, you have a discretion to reject such a request. All right. You're not going to be penalized for rejecting it. All right. But again, you're not going to be rewarded. So it's like you can look at it as, for those in India and a little too religious, you can look at it as sunnah. All right. If you don't do it, then you're penalized. But if you do it, you get rewarded, if that makes sense. So the last thing we're going to be looking at would be time management. So I'm not going to be talking about this in detail. Mr. Jallo has touched on this as well. I think this forms the second part of his presentation. So adherence to time limits. You're going to be given time limits. If you extend or you go beyond it, you're going to be penalized. And then your pacing as well. We know that you're being timed, but again, are you speaking like very slowly, like some of us used to do when we started this whole debate thing in the first place? Or are you speaking at an unnecessarily faster pace? People also do that sometimes. They forget that, okay, no matter how fast you are and you're able to finish your debate within the time given, but again, what you have said should have been heard. And we cannot hear what you're saying if you're just ahead of yourself, ahead of everybody. All right, so your pacing is very important. And then the last but not least would be your final summary on the time management. Are you able to give a strong conclusion that summarizes the key arguments presented, leaving a lasting impression on the adjudicators? Debaters who fail to conclude effectively or run out of time may not leave a strong final impact, which could affect the score. So this has brought me to the end of my presentation. And if any of you has any questions, I would be glad to take them, but please, I will implore on all of you to make them very brief and don't make them very tough as well. Yeah. On that note, thank you very much. Yes, thank you very much. So briefly, as you were saying that I was equally having a very good laugh because I think an opponent nearly fought me for so, so it happens, all right? It happens. But people have to understand it's not about lying, okay? It's about being convincing. All right. So there's a thin line between telling a lie and telling a truth in a convincing way. Okay, so lawyers that practice, that is how they make a living. And I think that is the misunderstanding that society has always had. They've always thought that these people lie to make a living. It's not about lying, it's about presenting the same truth that you would present, but they present it in a more persuasive way. All right. So, for example, I might say something like, if I'm quoting Gibos, I can just say Gambia Bureau of Statistics has said this, but somebody else can say Gambia Bureau of Statistics, one of the most credible, okay, sources in the Gambia. So if they say this, they're not necessarily lying, all right? They're trying to sound more convincing and persuasive than they otherwise would have sounded if they had not done that. So please, like I said, it is not up to us to judge who is lying and who is telling the truth. I have made that very clear. Our responsibility is to work with what we are given. So if you believe that your opponent has told a lie, it is your responsibility to bring it to our attention. We are not going to say, okay, but boy, what you've just said right now is not true or something. It is the responsibility of the opposing side to ensure that that particular thing that is being said is brought to our attention, and we are told that it is a lie as far as your evidence is concerned. So it is not about being truthful, it's about being persuasive. Even though truth is very important and we advocate for debaters to be truthful, but again, we're not judging the truth of statements, we're judging the persuasiveness of statements, if that answers your question. Thank you.
Yes, greetings. So I may not recall your name, but thank you for giving me the floor, please. And thank you, Mr. Batu, for the detailed explanation. So it's Usman Bari, and I'm a representative of Malaysia. So I just have a quick question to ask with regards to rebuttals. So, like, it is often idealized that rebuttals can perform in a way of disrespect. Others would use foul language or derogatory language. So I want to ask the question whether the measure of uh, respect required for rebuttals when debating. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Usman. And again, it's good to be reconnected. It's been a very long time. And again, I didn't notice where you were hiding. But you see, this is, I think Gam-IND has to be given, like, they have to be given credit for ensuring that all of those who are hidden are soon. But yeah, it's a very personal thing to me because personally, even though I have fought it all my life, I am a very soft-spoken person. All right. So most of the debates I participated in, most of my debaters are very fierce in their rebuttals. Fierce in the sense that they become very adversarial in their debunking. All right, when they're debunking you, sometimes they wouldn't even mind looking at you in the face and saying something that is very insulting. All right. Uh, but over time, I've been able to build a thick skin for that. But that is also something that I have never seen to be necessary. All right. So it has won me a best speaker in a particular debate where I know individuals I debated against were even better debaters than I am. But because I ensured that that amount of respect was always adhered to and observed. So if I'm debunking you, I know I am not attacking you as an individual. I am attacking the points that you have raised. So please, we will implore on all the debaters that I'm not going to say whether or not you're going to be penalized if you're being very insulting and disrespectful towards an opponent in debunking them. But as far as rebuttals are concerned, those things don't count for us. What counts for us is whether or not you're able to attack the point that has been made, not the individual. So you should be able to make that distinction. Your responsibility is to debunk the point that has been made and not the individual, if that makes sense. All right. So we'll appreciate if all the debaters take this thing to heart and make sure that we have a very smooth encounters where individuals are able to debate in a very dignified and respectful environment. Yeah, thank you. Another person is up. So briefly, please.
Indeed, yes. Indeed, Anthony, yes. Thank you, Mr. Ba. Thank you.
Okay, just a minute. Okay, what you are trying to emphasize, I wanted to bring it in. That was like what we call fallacies. It is called ad hominem fallacy, whereby you attack the person personality and the likes. I wanted also discuss it, but just like we have a lot of complicated things to discuss, then we look at those things and avoid those fallacies. But I want to emphasize that this is something you attacking the person, saying a lot of things. It does not necessary, and it is considered as ad hominem fallacy, which cannot be tolerated in this debate. Please let us be so much professional. Accept, deny in a very respectful manner. Thank you.
Um, Hi.
Oh no, no, I don't know. It is I've raised it mistakenly. I think I don't know. I'm sorry about that.
I don't really have a question. I'm gonna let the when this is gonna end for today because it's been 2 hours already. And I have an appointment now that should be. Yep, that's good. Will do. Thank you. Okay, bye.
Not really. When you have doyens and veterans like your seniors in the debating arena speak or spoken, there isn't any need for dual ones like us to add anything. My dad is here and also my son in Basiro. So they've done extremely well. I only hope and pray that the debaters would adhere to the rules, because time and again, most of these things that they make mention of do happen in the debating arena. So it's good to be respectful. Though myself, I've been a fierce type of debater. I'll be sometimes toxic, if English would allow me to use that. But all in all, I think it's very, very important to be respectful and per se not to attack people. Even no matter how fierce you might be or whatsoever, just attack the points that are put forward, not actually the individuals that made mention of them. Yeah, those things are very, very key. Yeah, that does it all. My bosses have spoken, so little what I have as far as these things are concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, if I may come in, yes, all of those things have been developed and they will be shared in due course, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Hello, hope you guys can hear me. All right. So, good day, everybody. My name is Mariama Jallo. I think someone was trying to differentiate if it's Miss or Mrs., but for now it's Miss. So, I am part of the education team, and I am really excited to be here with you all today to talk about the British parliamentary system of debate. Basiru came forward and Mohammed as well came forward, and they spoke a lot about the British parliamentary system of debate, and they brought light to a lot of things, let's say aspects of the debate. And in my duty today, as part of the adjudicators, I will be talking about the speaker, the bench. I'll be talking about the bench identities, the general roles, and team responsibilities. So I would like to begin with the bench identities, because I think we should know. Even though I know most of us already know what we are dealing with in the British parliamentary system of debate, I'll still go on and talk about the bench identities and know what exactly we are going into. So to begin with the bench identities, we have in total we have 8 people in the British parliamentary system of debate, which consists of 4 teams. That is 2 benches. So we have, okay, thank you, Basiru, for sharing your screen with us. So we have the government bench and the opposition bench as well. So the government bench consists of 4 people, and the opposition bench as well consists of 4 people. That makes it 8 people in total in the British parliamentary system of debate. So let's talk about the government bench. So the identities we have in the government bench, let's start with the opponent government, because each bench too has 2 teams. That is the opponent team and the closing team. We call it the opponent government and the closing government. So for the opponent government, we have 2 speakers. That is the Prime Minister and the Deputy Prime Minister. And for the closing government as well, we have 2 speakers. That is the government member or the member of government, as others would like to call it, and also the whip or the government whip. So moving on to the opposition bench, we have the opposition leader and as well as the deputy opposition leader. Yeah, as it is shown right here in the screen that Basiru is sharing. And that is the opposition team that I'm talking about. That is the opposition bench. So the closing opposition to has a opposition member and the opposition whip. So these are the team at the British parliamentary system of debate. I mentioned we have 8 people in total, 4 people in each bench. Each bench is having 2 teams, that is the opponent team and the closing team. And I've mentioned the speakers that we have in all of these teams. So I would like us to talk about the general, like the general. We can talk about the individual roles, like of the speakers in each bench or in each team. So let's start with the opponent government. I hope I am being audible right now. And if I'm speaking too fast, please do let me know so I can reduce my space. But then I think we are all running out of time and everybody else has something to do from here. So, and the government, the role we have is to the debates that we are going to have. And then the opponent government as well is responsible to outline if the topic that is if it's a policy motion or whatever type of motion it is. So when you are giving your outlining your context and defining your key terms, you have to be providing arguments and supporting the motion. The government also is responsible to responding the opposition arguments and also to actively engage in the debates through the POIs. That is, the POIs, they've spoken about the POIs and when to take a POI and when not to request a POI. So I'm talking about the general roles and we move on to the individual roles. So the opposition also should come forward to outline arguments opposing the motion that is brought forward by the opponent government, responding to the opponent government's arguments, and also actively engaging in the debate through POIs. So the closing government provides an extension to the debate, responding to the main arguments on the opponent half and responding to the close provides an extension and also responds to the main arguments on the opponent's half respond. We've just gone through the general, that is team roles, that is for both the government, for both the opponent government, the opponent opposition, the closing government, and the closing opposition. I would like us to go through the team responsibilities or the team roles. Let's begin with the opponent government. First. So the opponent government, we are starting with the prime minister, of course, who is the one that begins the debate, is responsible to ensure that the debate kicks off, right? So the prime minister defines the motion. When he comes on board, define the motion. And I've been listening to Mohammed. He's also spoken a lot, and the prime minister and the deputy prime. Sorry. the Prime Minister and the opposition leaders' roles. So to just recap, when the Prime Minister come forward, they define the motion and give
You are audible. She's not getting
referencing, of course, to the definition that they've laid forward. And then they present their case with arguments. Also, sure, give references to the arguments that they are given as well. Because first is that
allow her. She cannot get us right now. The network is not okay. Yes, Mariama. Okay, I will send her a message. Yeah, hello. Yeah, I have messaged her and she has replied. Yeah, network problem. Yeah, that's why my team they are unable to present their slides due to that technical problem. Mohammed, he woke up very early, only to be disappointed that there was no network, even there was no light to charge his phone. That's why I was like, okay, I will take the responsibility of projecting my slides and other individual slides. So that was the only problem, nothing else. Everything was prepared, but the network in Gambia and the light system, you all know. So we are sorry for that. So any question that you need to be answered, you can always reach out to us. That's why he wasn't able to go with the laptop to the place where he has been to do his work as a speaker. Sorry for any inconvenience. Yeah.
wait, I'm not seeing. Wait.
Yeah, connection lost. She has the screen. Okay, can we pick it from there? I just want to show the rules. I think she's back. If those rules of speaker, why not? Okay, they are
Hello.
documented. They are documented for sure.
I am so sorry for the relapse. It was my network, so I had to go outside and try to get a proper internet connection. So I was talking about the I think it's QCell.
network.
But let's who said that? Who said that? Okay, so we talked about the general team roles already. So we were talking about the Prime Minister. So I think I've used most of your time already with this network. I'll just fast track everything. So moving on to the opposition leader as well outlines the opposition stances, accepting or rejecting definition that are given or the key terms that are defined. So if the Prime Minister comes forward and defines the key terms that are in the debate, the opposition leader has the right to come forward and say and reject the definition that are brought forward. Of course, with solid referencing, because the opposition leader cannot just come forward and say the Prime Minister's key terms invalid or they are not going to stand in the debate if he doesn't have a solid reference backing him up. So that too should be considered. And the opposition leader too should review the prime minister's points that he brought forward. He should review the prime minister's points, and he should also give his own points, and not to forget taking off POIs that is within the time that is given. Not of course in the first minute and in the last minute, which are the protected times, but in the unprotected time he can take the POIs. So in doing all, the opposition leader too should come forward with his or her own structure that he is going to follow in the debate. So whichever structure he comes forward is what the judges are going to use and to follow through while listening to him to be able to get the concept or the analysis that he's bringing forward. So if you bring forward your arguments, you tell the judges that I am going to defend key terms, reduce the government leaders' points, give my points, take a POI if time permits, summarize in summary and conclude. You tell us that this is what I'm going to do, but then you come forward and then you do the opposite. So you're not being how to call it? You're not being straight, whatever. I don't know how to say what to say in this case. But you're not following your structure, which is not right. If you say this, you have to stick through with the debate. So let's move on to the Deputy Prime Minister. So the Deputy Prime Minister should rebuild the Prime Minister's case and ensure that it stands throughout the debate. So the Deputy Prime Minister too should give a point, can also give his or her own arguments. That is the points that they have to bring forward in order to strengthen the core arguments of the Prime Minister. The points of the Deputy Prime Minister should be able to strengthen the core points that are given by the Prime Minister. They should not be contradicted in the point that are given by the Prime Minister. Remember, you are on the same bench, you're on the same team. So you are supposed to be strong and valid, even by the opposition leader. And that too should be made strongly, because to ensure that the point, even when it's repeated, it doesn't still hold any this too about following your stuff. Sorry, the connection is, I think it's from your side this time. So moving on. By repeating the point that are given by the opposition leader, you also summarize and then you conclude, but not forgetting to take a POI. Like if you promise, especially if you promise, it is advisable to take at least one or two POIs when you are debating during your unprotected time. But most people will choose to not take a POI when they are debating. That like people prefer to not take a POI sometimes when they are debating, either due to limited time or you did not promise to take a POI. But either way, it is advisable to take a POI, one or two, that if time permits you. In doing so, then you can summarize, and in summary that you conclude. So in summary, you have to go back to your structure and tell us what you have done. So let's go to the deputy opposition leader. So the deputy opposition leader is the second speaker for the opposition bench, just like the deputy prime minister. When the deputy opposition leader as well comes forward, the deputy opposition leader should make sure to strengthen the points of the opposition leader, and also to give new arguments or deeper analysis of the topic at hand and to review the points of the Deputy Prime Minister. I will keep repeating this. In doing so, make sure you follow your structure. I'm repeating it because this is something that I always used to find very challenging for me. Like sometimes you're debating, you have a lot to say. Like you have a lot to say and time will not permit you, and then you will just want to say everything at once. And at the end you mess up without following your structure, which is something very bad, because if you promise the judge this is the structure I am going to follow, you should ensure you follow it through to the end of the debate, because that is what is going to guide us, so we will not get lost when we are listening to you in your debate. So in reviewing the Deputy Prime Minister's points, you can take a POI if time permits, and then you summarize and then you conclude. In strengthening, do not forget to bring back the references that were mentioned by the opposition leader if you are strengthening. So these references, you should also always make sure you remind the House so that we can know, yes, the point is still solid in the debate. So we move on to the closing government. So the closing government, I've mentioned that we have the two teams, that is the government member and the government whip. So the government member is the third speaker in the government bench. When the government member comes forward, he summarizes. The government member is responsible for summarizing the Deputy Prime Minister's debate by rebuting most of the points brought forward by the opposition leader, and also defending the government extension, new arguments, and rebuting the closing government's extensions. But, sorry guys, can you hear me? I think there's a lot of noise here. Good. Okay, thank you. So we are talking about the closing government. The government whip, right, summarizes the debate, reviews most of the cases that are brought forward by the opposition member, and also extensions that are given forward by the government member. The government whip strengthens these cases and summarizes and concludes. So the whip is not supposed to be taking any POIs, even though many people make the mistakes of, like, sometimes you're debating and you are the whip, someone will just get up and say POI. So if you do not know, you will attempt to accept it. Well, you are not supposed to take a POI from anybody. So they can do that just to distract you or to try and intimidate you while you are debating. So we move on to the closing opposition, where we have the member of opposition. So the member of opposition, and also when the member of opposition comes forward, the member of opposition strengthens the points that are given forward by the opposition leader, and then gives a deeper analysis of the points that are brought forward by the opposition leader, reviews the points of the government bench, summarizes and concludes. So if you are the member of the opposition, mostly because of time, like, people are not able to carry this out, but it's something that can give your group a lot of points, extra points. So like many opposition members, when they come forward, they stop strengthening at the speaker that came before them. But as a member of opposition, if you are strengthening, you don't necessarily have to the member of the opposition. If you are the member of the opposition leader, and even go forward to strengthen the the points of the deputy opposition leader, that is if time permits you. So you remind the House that yes, this is what the opposition leader the deputy opposition leader spoke about. These are the references that he brought in. And then you go back to the government, the opposition leader as well. That these are the points that he brought forward. This is a definition that he gave to so and so key terms, and these are the references, or this is the references he brought forward. If mostly in the Gambia, we are fond of using GBOS, like GBOS everywhere in every debate. Debaters will be saying GBOS, dictionary, or wherever you get it from. So you remain the house of this, like you keep remaining the house of this. So in doing so, you summarize and then you conclude. And the final speaker becomes the whip, that is the whip on the closing opposition side. So the whips on both sides are responsible for summarizing the entire debate. So they are responsible for summarizing the entire debate on both sides, from the opposition side and for the preposition side. So when we talk about the whip on the opposition bench, we summarize the debate from the opposition leader to the closing to the member of the opposition. So you talk about the extensions that the closing opposition has spoken about, and then you give a deeper analysis of the extension that the member of opposition has mentioned. So you make sure that to keep the house engaged on the point that the member of opposition talked about, especially giving a deeper analysis. This really helps the job, because you are the final speaker. It's like you are reminding them, yes, this is what has been said, this is what has been done, and this is why our team should win this debate. So your speech can really influence the winning team. So we've talked about the team identities, we've talked about the team roles, and we've also talked about the bench identities. I believe we've talked about all of these things. So there's one thing, because I mentioned that time management. Like Mohammed mentioned time management, and Basiru too mentioned time management. So time management, like I mentioned earlier, like it's very, 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 very important. As a debater, it is your biggest opponent. Like I know you have your opponent, you're debating with people, against people on a topic, but time management too can be your big opponent if you do not manage your time well. Winning a debate is not just what you say. Like it's not just the things that you say, the points that you brought forward, but also how you say it and when you say it. So if this is done efficiently, then in control of the house. So disciplining your speaking time and respecting the clock can help you a lot to manage and control the room. That is, if you are this properly. So I would just like to summarize on everything that I've talked about. I've talked about the team roles. That is my topic, team roles. So components related to team identities and the bench responsibilities. In summary, we have 8 people in the debate settings. So 8 people, 4 in each team. In the opponent bench, in the opponent we have the opponent government, we have 2, the closing we have 2 people, and the same thing goes to the opposition bench as well. The opponent opposition we have 2 speakers, the closing opposition we have 2 speakers. So there are rules, as we've already spoken about them. Defining the motion, presenting the case, and giving co-arguments for the opponent teams. You define your motion, you present the case, and then you give your co-arguments. Most especially the opponent, the opposition, the leader of the government leader. So the same thing goes for the opposition leader. Of course, you have to rebut as well, because you are the second speaker, and then there are points that are given by the government leader, which you can or you should rebut. So the Deputy Prime Minister too, I've mentioned, you review the case of the Prime Minister, you add new analysis to the debate, and you strengthen the core arguments that are given by the Prime Minister, and also you rebut the points, just like many people would like to call it, the senseless, the baseless. But anyway, you just rebut the points that are brought forward by the opposition leader. The deputy opposition leader as well. You strengthen the points that are brought forward by the opposition leader. You add new arguments or deeper analysis to the debate, and then you rebut the deputy prime minister's cases. Rebut. Do not forget to rebut. Because if you do not rebut a point, that means you agree with the point that you say yes. Like if you do not rebut it, that is indirectly what you are telling the judges, that you agree with this certain point, which is not why you are debating. We debate to have deeper understanding on things that we do not understand, or to defend the things that we understand. So if you are just going forward, bringing your points without rebuting, then you are saying that, okay, their points are valid, and the judges will consider their points valid throughout the debate. So don't forget your rebutals. So you summarize and you conclude. And most importantly, the POIs. Do not forget your POIs during your unprotected time. During your first minute and your last minute, you have 2 minutes that are your protected time, that the first and the last minute. So do not let anyone trick you into making you manage your time wrongly. Because you'll be in your first minute, your priority in your first minute should be defining your key terms, giving your introducing your topic, defining your key terms, and giving analysis of the motion that is at hand. So you cannot be in your first minute and then somebody just gets up and says a POI, and then you also start. Like, it doesn't even make sense. So when you're on your first minute, like, you have your wristwatch, like time your watch, time yourself, and then just be conscious of the time. Like that's all. Be conscious of your time. So the closing government tool, like the government member and the government whip. The government member, you come forward, you strengthen the points given forward by your bench, you give deeper analysis, and then you summarize, you conclude, you take a POI if time permits. The same thing for the closing, the member of opposition as well. So the whips, you are not supposed to take any POI. It is the responsibility, just like it is the responsibilities of the opening speakers, the prime minister and deputy prime minister, to make sure the debate kicks off and the motion is ongoing. It is the responsibilities of the whips to summarize the debate and give the final analysis of their benches. So this ensures justifies the winning team. So for instance, you are on the opponent government and you are the win. If you summarize the debate, you compare the points brought forward. You give, like, you talk about the points that are brought forward by your bench, that is the deputy prime minister and the prime minister. Like you make sure they are still like intact in the debate. Like you strengthen them properly in your summary. Of course, you do all that in your summary. So this justifies whether your team is going to win or not. It doesn't mean it is what is going to determine exactly whether you're going to win or not, but it's also like part of the thing that can determine the winner of the debate. So guys, I would like to hear from you guys. If there are questions, then we can take the questions. If there is no time for questions, then we can send whatever we have or whatever doubts we have to the page. I believe we are all in the adjudication and the participants page. We can send whatever doubts we have here. Okay, I think some hands.
All right. Thank you so very much, Mariana, for the brief explanation. I hope I don't need to introduce myself because this voice should be familiar with you. Anyway, it's a detailed explanation, and then we thank you so very much. Though we've been uh, challenged with the Tubabura network, but I hope one day, inshallah, we will get to settle that too. So my question would be with regards to the subject of POI, that is point of information. At one point, maybe one of the opponents, maybe the government or the opposition team, might raise a POI. If it is rejected, at what uh, interval of time should another POI also be raised? Because at some point, you will see some debaters, they would constantly keep on asking POI, POI, POI. So even if you reject them, they would still ask for POI in the next 3 or 4 seconds. So as we are delving into this debate, what is the required time needed for the POI to be raised, meaning the intervals, please? I don't know whether you understand the question. Indicate if you
Oh,
understand
thank you
what I was
so
saying.
much, Ibrahim. Oh, sorry, I mean Usman for the question. And please stop being a bully here. So your question is very clear. And if we are all to be honest, I'm sure like as debaters we've all faced certain situations while we are debating. So you'll be speaking and one opponent will just be standing POI, 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 either stomping the leg or with the of trying to
It's from my
intimidate
end
or
or from
distract
her
you.
end.
Elementary debate system, the unprotected time. Protected time. Hello.
She's not. She's not. She's not here.
I am not. So you guys are not hearing? Okay, okay.
No,
So as I
Mariana,
was
it's not you. Boy. Thank you. Gambian, can I worry? I repeat it.
for you people to stop bullying Gambians. Gambian network. So am I audible right now or can you guys? I am audible. Okay. Moving on with the question, Usman. So like I mentioned, we have 7 minutes. The first minute and the last minute, that is your protected time. So during your first minute, this is a minute that you are expected to bring your motion like into place. The first minute that you are expected to introduce your motion to the house, to define your key terms and also give your references and tell the judges this is my structure. Of course, some people take up at least more than even the first minute to do that. Like people are not the same. The pace in which we speak is not the same as well. But the first minute is your protected time. So if you're speaking in your first minute and someone gets up to ask you a POI, no, the parent doesn't know that this minute is your protected. But you as a debater, you know this is my protected time and I have the right to decline whoever asks me for a POI. And the second minute to the 6 minutes, this is the unprotected time. So within this period, the debaters or your opponents can ask you a POI. But even within these minutes, if you are speaking and somebody is constantly asking POI, 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 the judges will put the house in order. They're telling the person order, like to behave. Because some people, the way they ask for a POI, to me, it seems like kind of aggressive or trying to distract you. But then you have to stick to your ground, like you maintain your stance in the debate. So if that is the case and you feel like, okay, like you feel like you're the way you are speaking, like you want to achieve something, like you want to bring your points in forward first before taking a POI, or you want to rebut first before taking a POI, or as you mentioned in your structure, but then somebody asks you a POI without you even asking for it. Because at some point, if you say in your structure that I'm going to take a POI if time permits, that is after rebuting, then when you're done rebuting, you yourself as the debater, you can stand and say, any POI. So anybody with a POI will raise their hand or they will get up and ask you the question. But if that isn't the case and you've not achieved your goal yet and they're just asking POI, and you're not ready to take it, then you can tell them to please sit down, to kindly sit down, and you proceed with your debate. When you're ready to take a POI, then you can ask the House, any POI. Then you ask the House, any POI. Whoever has a POI, they can ask you. But sometimes too, when this happens, some people will deliberately not ask you a POI because you mentioned in your structure that you're going to take a POI. You did not take it when they asked you, and then you want to take it at your own convenience. Of your opponents will deliberately not ask you so that you can be penalized because you did not follow your structure. So in summary, the last minute protected time, the second to the 6 minutes, the unprotected time. Usman, I hope that answered your question.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you, Mariam. But then, sorry, could I just clarify this thing? Like, I understand the protected time, and my question, like, is specifically on the unprotected time, like the POI. What is the minimum required time interval between one POI and the other? Could Mr. Basiru Diallo please shed light on that, please? Thank you, Mariam. I really understand this. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I am in the place is a little bit noisy, but I want to just add on to what Mariama has said. So what Mariama has said is the rule, all right? So there's a rule and there's custom, all right? So Usman, being someone who spent some time at law faculty of law, maybe come into contact or must have come into contact with customary law as well. So this is not a strict rule as far as BP system is concerned, as in once you ask a POI, what interval you should give in order to ask another POI. But there's a custom and there's a convention. And this is recognized all around the world in every BP debating style because it's very unreasonable and very obstructive for you to ask the POI and it's rejected, and then you on your feet again ask the POI, and that is unacceptable. All right, it is a customary practice, and as far as this debate is concerned, that custom has to be observed. Once you ask a POI and it is rejected, you cannot ask another POI until at least 30 seconds has elapsed. And you ask another POI again and it is rejected. So, but you don't just keep on asking POI, interrupting the person's flow. In that case, you are inviting the intervention of the adjudicators, all right? And they're going to intervene to make sure that order is restored. And again, it's not a strict rule, but we might even consider penalizing anybody who does that because we know that it's a deliberate attempt to kind of cause confusion and again, make it a little bit difficult for the person speaking to make a submission smoothly. Yeah, so I think it's just a customary rule, although it's not a strict one, but it's a customary rule that you don't have to be doing that, asking POI successively. You ask once, it is rejected, you have to give it a very reasonable interval before you could ask another one. And the expectation is you're not supposed to request for more than 3 POIs for the same speaker. That would be unfair. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Council, for elucidating on that point. Indeed, very, very clear.
No, you are doing a great job. Continue. Don't worry.
Yeah, may I come in? Yeah, so there would be a time when the debaters are going to be acquainted with the rules and regulations of the debate as far as this specific debate is concerned. So this one is more or less like a general training as to the rules governing generally the BP system. But the specific rules that would detail how we go about this specific competition and the scores to be allocated. If you could remember, even when I made presentation on content, rebuttals, structure, and time management, I did not say the amount of points that are going to be allocated for those respective areas we're going to consider. So all of this will be said with the debaters. For today, our concern is specifically for BP system generally and what is expected of debaters. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. The next one is the closer remark, yeah. Yeah, sure. I can go ahead with it, no problem. Okay, no problem. Uh, Thank you very much, Mr. Luis, for that wonderful moderation. Thank you very much for taking over the conversation. So yeah, I think like that this brings us to the end of the, how will I even call it? Is it training or is it a lecture? Yeah. So first of all, I want to send a very big thank you to the YCDA from hearts up to Basiru Institutions and my Gambians with the Bad Network. I say that thank you very much for honoring our call. And to the representatives as well, like just like they mentioned, like it's just an open discussion. It's more like you are trying to like convince us like what you have to say. So don't take anything to heart. Don't focus on the comment section because I know they will be there roasting you. But at the end of the day, like those roasting you at the end of the day are going to like end up. So wish you all the very best of luck in the championship and see you on there. Thank you very much. Mbero Kuja. No boy, be full of connection na de. Be full of connection na de. Full of connection na de.
Nah, not full of connection. It's too bad connection.
Information, I do hold and I